the ancient texts of our history. They hold a secret. Buried between the familiar lines of creation, the Bible hints at a woman before Eve, a woman erased, demonized, and turned into a monster. Her name was Lilith, and her story changes everything. Section 1. The Erased Woman, the Missing Figure of Paradise. Okay, let's dive into this. When we picture Eden, we usually just think of Eve, right? The traditional, ideal helpmate formed from Adam's rib to resolve a sort of spiritual division. But there is a woman missing from the Bible. Ancient text remembers someone else, Lilith, Adam's first wife. And get this, she was formed equal, conjured from the exact same earth as Adam. Because she was a forerunner and equal, she demanded to be treated like one. She didn't fall from grace. She was a woman who simply walked away from paradise. And for that, her story was deliberately shattered. Section 2. Whispers from Forbidden Texts. Relics of a Forgotten Myth. Because she defied the early patriarchs, she was written out. So to trace her survival, we have to map out whispers from the absolute margins of history. We're talking scattered references spanning from the Sumerian king list around 2400 BC to the 2nd century BC Enoch traditions, all the way down to the fragile 1st century BC Dead Sea fragments. Her story survives only in the books that were never meant to be read. Now, what's really interesting about this is the physical reality of how we know her. These are actual physical fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Her narrative was quite literally buried in the desert, among other forbidden, non-canonical texts. We are essentially forced to piece together her existence, building a ghost from actual ancient dust. These oldest relics reveal her true origins. The earliest reference to Lilith is found in the Sumerian king list of 2400 BC, known as Lilith or she-demon. The texts record her as this primordial being of the night, someone who bore children from nocturnal unions. Over millennia, as societies became far more structured and patriarchal, her myth morphed. She went from an autonomous equal into something, well, terrifying. Section 3. A Chimera of Autonomy, the Mythic Biological Monster. And this brilliantly illustrates what happened next. To invalidate her independence, early scribes couldn't just say she left. They had to twist her into a warning. They transformed this equal woman into a mythic biological monster. According to ancient rabbinical writings and lore, she became a creature with wings and claws, part human, part owl. Connected to the very primordial chaos that produced the Nephilim, she became the forerunner to the nightmare and the succubus. Lilith is not merely human. She is a chimera of autonomy, half flesh, half night. But I want you to really ask yourself, why? Why did ancient cultures feel so completely compelled to take a woman who simply refused her assigned role and transform her into a monster? What exactly were they so afraid of? Section 4. The Archetype of Refusal, the Shadow of Eve. The answer actually lies in psychology. Lilith is a psychological mirror. If Eve represents compliance and domesticity, Lilith is her dark shadow. We define this chimera of autonomy as the mythic embodiment of willful rebellion and an inner core of individual authority that flat out rejects social domination. She represents the part of humanity that refuses to be treated as a natural resource. So the crucial point is how early societies felt a deeply rooted fury at the sheer existence of her autonomous subjectivity. They loathed her independence, they feared her mind. And so they demonized exactly what they feared, essentially telling the women of their time, hey, this is what happens when you demand equality. You become a monster. Our source texts note that this defiance is undertaken by humans in a spirit of willful, autonomous rebellion. This isn't just ancient history, guys. It's the architecture of the human soul. Lilith is the part of the human psyche that will not kneel. Section 5. The modern echo. The shadow rises again. Let's move to the present and see how this builds today. Her myth refuses to stay buried in the sands of the Dead Sea. For thousands of years, Orthodox religion tried to bury her story under the weight of the canonical, accepted narrative of the fall of Adam and Eve. Just look at the forgotten book of Enoch compared to mainstream Genesis. Yet, every single era inevitably resurrects her. Every culture tries to bury her, and every generation brings her back. Because she has evolved into an enduring symbol. Today, she isn't just a demon of the night. She is a symbol of fierce independence, the absolute embodiment of the forbidden feminine. She's a psychological mirror for modern rebellion. Every time a woman refuses a role, Lilith's shadow rises again. We started this explainer looking for a demon, but what we found was something far more profound. Lilith is not a monster. She is a memory of the first woman who walked away, and her story still changes everything,